Yeah, that's right. This is the VW Passat, quotation marks, GTI. And that's not just because it shares a similar engine. In fact, there was a lot more on this Passat that really surprised me. So, let's watch. My name's Tom, and you are watching Paragon Cars. Let's go! So the main GTI-ness comes from the engine this thing has. This is the EA 888 2-litre turbo, and it is literally the engine out of a 2015 VW Golf GTI. So it makes 220 horsepower and 350 Nm of torque that goes to just the front wheels via a 6-speed DSG or dual clutch transmission. Its 0 to 60 is just 6.9 seconds, but what about the old 30 to 70 sprint? Let's see just how fast this thing really is. Oh, what? How? Like, literally how? This thing managed 5.51 seconds. To put that in perspective, that is faster than a 340 horsepower BMW X5 40i. You know, the thing with a B58 engine. And it's literally as fast as the X5 M50D we reviewed a week prior. I blame weight, you say? No, you don't. Both of those cars actually have a higher power to weight ratio despite being heavier. This engine really does just have some magic horses in it. And no, before you ask, it's not been remapped. This is as stock as it comes. 0.2 seconds off of a Mark III Ford Focus RS. In a Passat. Anyway, I digress. The interior of this thing is, well, posh golf, but that is certainly no bad thing. You have a digital dash, ergo comfort seats, they are sublime, felt-lined cubbyhole for your stash, this airblade thing that doesn't really have a function, but it looks cool, cup holders that actually work, physical climate controls, and even a real clock. I love this interior, I really do. It's cohesive, functions well, and actually looks pretty too, even for a Volkswagen. Moving backwards, things just seem to get even better. You have legroom for lots of leg and headroom for lots of head. And not only that, this thing even has 3-zone climate control, optional extra. So yeah, your rear passengers can decide how hot or how cold they want their knees. You even have a rear armrest with admittedly some not so good cup holders. Why aren't they so good, you ask? Well, they're shallow, so drinks kind of flop around, and the cup holders themselves can't be covered when you're not using them, so your elbow can end up in them. Anyway, boots. This thing is a certified king of boots, and that's not because of the 650 litres of space it has. You have shopping hooks, a 12-volt socket, and an adjustable boot floor that can genuinely be adjusted with one hand. Brilliant. Just brilliant. But wait, it actually gets even better. You know that big old X5 I reviewed last week where the seats kept getting stuck when you folded them down? Yep, VW thought of that one. Not only can you fold the rear seats down with this little lever, they don't get stuck on the way down. This is such a minor but such a nice thing to have when you're regularly carrying lots of stuff. Well done, VW. However, now we come to a bit that a lot of VWs maybe aren't so good. The driving. Is this an understeering mess? There's only one way to find out. Let's go! So, the Volkswagen Passat has had a pretty good start, all things considered. But it gets even better, because I have found something. If I change my drive mode here, click on individual, there is a setting that I was not expecting. I knew you could get it, but I thought it was pretty rare, and it must be pretty rare. This thing has DCC, otherwise known as Dynamic Chassis Control. And we have 3 different modes. We have Comfort, Normal, and Sport. And I tell you what, in Comfort, this thing rides like a dream. It's got nice light steering, I can get the seats nice and low, you've got an extendable bit for your thighs, and going over speed bumps with that DCC, it is awesome. This car is so comfortable to drive, it's unreal. And the other thing is that obviously that torque comes in at 1500 RPM. So unlike the 272 horsepower VW Passat 4Motion, which has its torque come in around 2,000 revs. The torque comes in a bit sooner in this. So the smoothness of this EA AAA 2-litre engine is just unreal. I mean, it really is unreal. I had no idea this car even existed, but I am already falling in love with it. It is so nice to drive. Comfortable, quiet. It's basically a Golf but better, is the way I describe it. And the wheels on it, whilst the design might not be my favourite, they're exactly the right size, because you've got enough tyre wall that the car kind of feels comfortable still. You don't get jolts going over bumps. Oh, and there's another really good thing as well. The armrest is extendable, like in a Golf, but VW do it with pretty much all their cars, and it just means you can rest your elbows exactly where you want to. Now then, in terms of parking, the Passat is kind of like, it's like between an A4, an Audi A4, and an Audi A6. I'd say it's more Audi A6 in terms of size, but unbelievably easy to park. Whack it in reverse. We've got okay mirrors. You know, they're not the biggest in the world. They could be a little bit bigger, give me a bit more visibility. Got parking sensors front and rear that are nice and accurate. Plenty of steering angle. And job's a good one. Once you're in the space, pretty easy to get to the first notch in the door most of the time. I find in London this is about as big as you want a car, but it's not so small that it's also kind of like, it feels cheap. It feels nice and expensive and plush. You know, you've got this big old air blade here, which is kind of a bit fake because it doesn't actually put air out there, it just comes out regular vents. But oh my lord, this thing is so relaxing to drive. It's so good. I really want one. One thing that's not so good though is the start-stop system. In all VW products, the start-stop system seems to just be a bit pants, unfortunately. So if I just turn the AC off, hopefully it engages start-stop. Is it going to? Let me put it in park. See, it knew I was going to slate it. Anyway, coming out of junctions, give it half throttle. This front-wheel drive car does a bit of a hop, skip and a jump, but it gets going pretty quickly nonetheless. It's just such an easy car to drive. Then, in terms of fuel consumption, VW say this thing will put out 44 miles per gallon on the combined cycle. Who's calling me?
This call is from Visa Security Department. Your car has been charged with £799 from Amazon. Press 1 to report.
Yeah, sure. Scam callers, eh? Anyway, VW says this thing will do 44 mpg, and this was just before WLTP forced them to use their own figures. So we're going to reset our mpg figure and see what kind of fuel economy we can get. Now, I've driven loads of cars with this engine, and it seems to be pretty efficient. You know, it's pretty much the perfect 2-litre engine. Fast, reliable, economical, and combined with this 6-speed DSG, it's a lovely thing to drive. This gearbox is so smooth, honestly. This is a genuine luxury car. It really is. Before we get on the motorway though, I want to see how this thing handles, because, as I said, we have DCC. I want to see if it makes a big difference or not. So let's go have a quick taste of the handling. Okay, let's use our mode selector, get us into sports mode. This will sharpen up the throttle, put us in S mode on the gearbox, give us slightly heavier steering, and most importantly, sharpen up that chassis. So let's get our foot down. Bit of wheel spin. Will it upshift for me? Yes, it will. Look at that. This thing is a quick car. Genuinely fast. Almost Golf GTI fast. Unsurprisingly. But the handling feels pretty sharp already. And in sports mode, this chassis feels really tight. Fast gearbox as well. Right, let's get this thing on the motorway and talk about it there, because it should be the best of both worlds. We have adaptive cruise control, and obviously the chassis can be put back in comfort and be comfortable and quiet. Okie dokie, coming on to the M1. We're in eco now, so throttle pedal is feeling pretty dead. But if I give it half throttle, still accelerates pretty quickly. And if you come off the throttle, it will actually come out of gear, so coast. Apparently that's more efficient than just staying in gear. And then, once you come onto the motorway, you realise it's quiet, it's comfortable. You've got, again, as I said, adaptive cruise, so you whack that on, change your speed to 70. And yeah, you just let the car drive for you, really. It's also quite a good adaptive cruise control system, this. Feels very safe to me. And yeah, road noise is low, wind noise is low. Just unbelievably comfortable. Surprisingly quiet as well. Like, really quiet. You know, if you made me put a blindfold on and told me this was an Audi A6, I'd believe you. It's as quiet as one inside. Of course, with the adaptive cruise control, you can change your distance settings as well. You just click this button here. If you leave it on the longest possible distance, it'll keep you this far away from the car in front. And the shortest possible distance, wait for it to catch up a bit. It gets to what I'd call close enough that if you're in the passing lane on the motorway, people won't undertake you. It's one slight caveat, slight problem to these systems, is that if you are in the passing lane and you leave a gap like this, sometimes people will undertake you because they think you're not close enough to the vehicle in front. But this system does keep you just about close enough, I'd say. Oh, this car is lovely. These seats as well, absolutely magical. Look at that, McLaren MP412C. Certainly don't see many of those. One thing I never realised as well is you could change the speed by 1 mile an hour increments as well. Steering feels nice. Chassis feels lovely, actually. Look at that, loads of grip. Because this is an estate, you've got a bit more weight over the rear as well. So if you come off the throttle, it kind of tucks its nose in quite well, actually. Right, let's stop waffling. Let's get on the motorway, see what kind of MPG we can manage in this thing. Finally made it through all that traffic and we're coming off the motorway now. What did we get? We got 40.4 mpg, so it's gone back up again. That is a genuinely impressive figure from a car that is pretty quick fundamentally and large enough to carry 4 adults in superb comfort with all their stuff. I think on a long journey you might even see like 45 miles per gallon out of this engine. That is genuinely a good figure. And it comes with all these creature comforts. You know, I've been using adaptive cruise control, which is actually a slightly less efficient way of driving because it's not predictive like an actual driver is that has eyes. It just reacts to things around it. And you know, I've got the aircon on. Genuinely like gobsmacked how good this car is. The only thing left to see now is if it's good on a B road. Can it come close to a VW Golf GTI? You know, we've got the adaptable chassis and we've got the engine, but is it as fun? Only one way to find out. Let's go! Okay, we are in sports mode with the traction in sports, gearbox in manual, armrest back. See what we can do in this thing, eh? Steering feels nice, front end feels very tidy. And you know what? Come off the throttle, it rotates a bit. That is genuinely quite impressive. Almost as impressive as how bad that driver is. Look at the performance, I mean, it speaks for itself. It's like a genuinely fast car. to be like 0.2 of a second off of a Mark III Ford Focus RS in something that just looks like your run-of-the-mill anything. It's just like crazy. Anyway, brakes, 100-yard marker. Yeah, pretty good. They don't feel quite as sharp as the VW Golf GTI brakes, but they wouldn't because they're not the same. I wonder what it sounds like actually. Get a little bit of auditory noise. A very muffled Golf GTI is the way I describe it, funnily enough. And yeah, the steering is really nice actually. Surprisingly good. Like, there's actual positive feel to it. Come around corners like this. Yeah, that's where the suspension starts to run out of talent a bit. But at the end of the day, it's designed to be comfortable first. You know, you get a little bit of that hop, skip and a jump kind of thing going on. But it controls the body well. Gearbox is DSG, so it's just awesome. All DSG gearboxes are great these days. That's what I like about front wheel drive. It's just a bit more involving, I find. It teaches you to control the throttle. You can't just be a hooligan. Or, I mean, you can, and then you just spin your wheels. Wow. I'm really liking this car. It's genuinely quite good fun. You get a bit of torque steer as well. Yeah, you can tell the gearbox is basically mapped, so it's just a little bit smoother. I wonder though, can we get a DSG fart? You can kind of hear a very muffled one. I reckon with a resonator delete, you'd get some. The thing for me though is the body control is actually really good. So if I drive this properly around this corner, foot down now, yeah, this is quick. This is genuinely quite a quick car. I can't even talk. It's genuinely quite a quick car. Like, if you mapped this and took it to a circuit, you would absolutely crap over quite a few hot hatches. The thing is, the balance, I would say, arguably better than smaller hot hatches. A longer body just, you seem to just have more grip. Like when you come off the throttle as well, you can really carry a lot of speed. This thing is awesome. And do you know where VWs are usually pretty good as well? Is around the old small British B road. So let's go to one now and really put the suspension through its paces. Still all same settings. Let's see how the Passat copes with our favourite British B road. Bit of a loss of traction there. Steering, it's noticeably less responsive than the Golf GTI, but the actual feel is quite nice. And going over big bumps like this, little squeal from the tyres, but it controls its mass really well, you know. This DCC system is awesome. Hard on the brakes, coming out of corners. Yeah, it can get the power down pretty well. Can definitely do with a diff though. Okay, can we hit 60 before the corner? Let's go. Bit of wheel spin, changes up for you. Look at that, easily hit 60 before the corner. This thing's genuinely fast. I know I've said it already, but it just, when you look at 220 horsepower, you think, it will be very mediocre. But no, this thing is a bit of a weapon. Dive into a corner on the brakes. Wow. This thing's wicked. one last time. Like, if you drive this thing properly, as in not just planting your foot and expecting it to hook up, you can feel the front end working hard. You can feel what it's doing as well. I can't believe how good this car is. I'm not even talking properly. What I'm trying to say is that the chassis is really good, and unexpectedly so. I was expecting this to be a kind of understeery mess, but it's really not. It wants you to drive it properly. I do a lot of these car reviews, and this is one of the best cars I've driven in a while. I cannot believe I'm saying that about a Volkswagen Passat. I had no idea they put this engine in this car, but it totally makes sense. It's economical, it's still genuinely quick. Like, this is a fast car. With an engine map, you know, you're keeping up with like a Mercedes E35 AMG. That's crazy. That's like properly crazy. Not far off of a Golf R. One car I really want to test now though is the 272 4-wheel drive or 4Motion all-wheel drive version of this, because I bet that is absolutely rapid. The thing is though, I reckon this might be more fun just because it's front-wheel drive. It's not so much point and shoot. It needs to be driven with a bit of finesse, and that I really like. And it doesn't understeer. You know, you can provoke it into oversteer if you want. And then you just got this. You've got this interior. You know, you've got perfect cup holders, wireless charging, little cubby next to the driver that's felt line door cards so things don't rattle around, adaptive cruise control, it's quiet, it's comfortable, a pretty good sound system. I mean, I could go on and on and on about how nice this car is to just amble about in. Yet, it's shockingly good to drive on a B road. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is genuinely one of the best cars I've ever driven. And it's got a VW logo on it, and it's a Passat. What? Gobsmacked. Anyway, I'm going to go and try and digest my thoughts now, and we'll finish the video up here. So, as always, if you like content like this, please give us a like, and why not subscribe, as not many people that watch the channel are subscribed, and it does help the YouTube algorithm push us just a little bit more so other people can watch this content. Plus, you can see everything we have for sale, which includes this genuinely good, like genuinely really good VW Passat. There'll be a link for the car down in the description. If there isn't, the car has sold, you missed it, soz. But if there is a link, you can go and check it out. It's a pretty nice spec. It doesn't have, you know, the upgraded sound system, but I think the stock system in this is actually all right, you know. But if you're not interested in a Passat, then there will be a link to the generic website down below as well, where you can go and browse at your leisure. Anyway, my name has been Tom, and you have been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers!